about denied 202 if T2 working cesium poor clocks. In R. Plato's operated utopian at-world, this described precision in and his, if republic their society R, would no be other utterly sources hierarchical of with error absolute T power clocks by will, cultural differ inheritance by in no T he more hands than of one a second minority after of running philosophers 3,000 T years guardians figure and one just 3 as shows T by senses comparison T with guardians T of cesium T clock body variations could in lie T so rate could of T rotation government of T Plato's Earth Republic over his nearly concept A of 3 T year universe period and note of that man's T mind Earth's within rotation it rate was is no high less in structured summer and an hierarchical low than in his winter idealized northern intellectual hemisphere oligarchy and without exhibits experiment A and steady without decrease empirical from knowledge year Plato too postulated year that in T this spiritual connection mind it of is man legitimate T too rational ask soul how is he in can his be head sure he that believed T that rotating mathematics earth is
Go ahead, you can rip them apart if you want to. Throw them all up in the air. That's all right. They're not just going to throw them away. Throw them all. Yeah, that's it. Throw them all over the place.
Asked to co-teach a class at the experimental high school, I named the class the No-No class and centered it around the teaching of guerrilla activities. At the first class, I told the students that no matter how well they do in the class, I planned to give them all D's, the lowest passing grade, since grades were aspects of a different political system than what the class represented. Some students dropped out immediately. They were then shown 2 vaudios of quasi-documentation of 2 guerrilla theater-type actions. At the end of the first class, they were asked to bring umbrellas to the next class. The second class consisted of my having the students walk down the sidewalks tightly clustered together with umbrellas over their heads, despite its not being rainy or sunny. The purpose of this was to force other pedestrians to have to navigate under the moving variable height ceiling that the clumped umbrellas created. As the finale, we blocked the entrance of a supermarket until a guard chased us away.
Or like I'm not sure. Or I is not sure.
Now what's this called?
This has T, fighting section.
Okay.
Great.
But we
Been
seem
waiting
like
for that.
Yeah, I mean it's all been
Oh, I remember it's
fighting. Supposedly we as all
Or
like good
I remember this.
I is not so sure.
Uh-oh.
It's due to T editing. One gets to see T beginning of T fights after T end of T fights.
No.
I'm going to talk about some of the ways that nuclear brain physicist surgeons might try to influence nuclear brain physics surgery school students through suggestive texts. Imagine, for example, that Nathan might want to have sex with John Burnt, and might, therefore, repeat the sentence, John Burnt will have sex with Nathan Long as a part of his contribution to lesson number 3, thinking that John would probably sleep through number 3 in the interest of furthering his education. Then imagine that John might place a similar suggestion directed toward Michelle, who might direct one toward tentatively a convenience, who might direct one toward Wendy, who might direct one toward Lara. Now imagine the various possible results of these hypothetical suggestions to the unconscious. John Burnt might desire Nathan so much that he'd try to follow him through Thailand, becoming hopelessly lost and confused in the process, never to be heard from by his fellow graduates again, but at least spreading the word of nuclear brain physics surgery in Asia. Or he might not sleep through it at all, but everyone who does will not rest easy if John doesn't have sex with Nathan. The first possibility might result in Michelle following John, tentatively a convenience following Michelle, etc., leaving behind a very confused Brian, Peter, Janet, and John Sheehan. Or perhaps Wendy might suggest that John Burnt, Peter, tentatively a convenience, and Lara will support Wendy Parker for the next 100 years, with the possible consequences that, after Wendy might die an untimely death 98 years later, these four would still be intravenously feeding a rotting corpse, taking it to the movies and feelies, etc. Contribution to lesson number 3, thinking that John, and Peter, and Janet, and John Sheehan. Or
Putting up the Rolling Stones?
There's more. Buys a fan, making flickering lights, which settle on your body like sexual.
There's an interesting story behind this next part. It's about why sitting in the audience right now. It has something to do with the business about the business about the business about the business about official nonsense that happens every. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's taxes. Taxes, yes, I'm talking about taxes. This year, I owe 29 times as much as I should, which is to say 29 times as much as 1992. And that just means that everything is all fucked up, obviously, because well, that's the way it goes. If we would just band together a little better, then things might be the way they should be, and we wouldn't be paying taxes. What this has to do with this tape it's showing right now and this film is perhaps a bit obscure. But again, that's the way it is, isn't it? So far, does
this make any sense to you? If it doesn't, I guess you'll just have to accept it. Just like I'm planning to get some money from this after I leave, in about a month or so, actually. So where was I? I was saying something about where we're coming from. Oh, yeah. And it really doesn't have very much to do with institutions.
Forget.
A community, perhaps of utopians, artists, scientific researchers, lives in a remote place, perhaps in a warm but isolated near-polar place, perhaps on another planet. A room full of people who are part of a trailer for a film. I've witnessed this trailer many times, although in actuality perhaps not. Perhaps the people in the room have smoked a new drug. 3 women start to strip. In a dream, I was witnessing an orgy of sorts with Dan Van Allen eating mushrooms. At approximately 8:30 a.m., in a dream I approached Neil Feather and at least one other person and told him that we were in a dream, or at least I was, and attempted to explain that my informing him, them, was a lucid experiment in testing collective unconscious recall. I dreamt of flying without mechanical aid, of course, and most significantly, perhaps, of teaching other people to do it. At a party where a man reveals, in a room similar to Mother's laundry room, that he's capable of and making records very cheaply. Later, in a much more open space, he exposes me to even newer technology, rectangles similar to sheets of typewriter paper into which he speaks.
This presentation is not a complete history of recent music or sound art, etc. It inevitably excludes more than it includes.
Because of the whole issue of dummyism.
Here's my earliest example. Obviously, you can read this as a quote from Hamlet
If you make the mental homophonic translation, the number 2, of course, gets translated into the word to, etc., etc. If you didn't know that those things were homophones, probably by knowing what they're pronounced like, in other words, if you were a deaf person, you might not be able to understand that as the quote from Hamlet. I think that's a very interesting area of the mind's activity, sound thinking, because it's a type of silent sound. In other words, you're remembering the sound and making the translation, but you don't necessarily have to hear it in order to make that translation.
So for this first one, you pick 2 sounds that you want to make. This is a simplified version of doing it. So let's say, for example, I pick the crow call as one sound, the siren whistle as another sound. Then what happens is I'll say red room, I'll count down 3, 2, 1. Somebody will make a sound. Now, if I hear you, for example, if I go like this, and you ring the bell at the same time, or you ring the bell shortly thereafter, or whatever, then that relationship can never be repeated again. So in other words, you would never ring the bell at the same time that I would play the crow call. If you rang the bell, I did the crow call, and you squeezed the bulb horn, and we did it all at the same time, then we would never repeat that again. So we would have to avoid repeating that relationship. That's basically all that's about. So if I then go like this, you can ring the bell at the same time because I haven't done that before. But then you can never repeat that again. So to a certain degree, this is a memory exercise. You have to remember everything that's happened and try not to repeat it. There are tricks to doing it, like for example, since it seems that people aren't really that awake. My interest in systems is synonymous with my interest in any imagining of structuring something along broadly inclusive lines. Looking for a definition of system online, I find many, many uses of the word in many disciplines. Perhaps the most useful for my purposes here are a group of interacting, interrelated, or interdependent elements forming a complex whole, an organized set of interrelated ideas or principles, a social, economic, or political organizational form, and an organized and coordinated method, a procedure. This latter ties into process, the other focus of this class. An online list of types of systems, slightly modified here, includes anatomical, artistic, biological, complex adaptive, conceptual, database management, dynamical, ecological, economical, formal, information, legal, living, measurement, multi-agent, nervous, nonlinear, operating, physical, political, sensory, social, and solar. I'm not necessarily familiar with deeper meanings of some of these, and have perhaps been mainly concerned with something approximately akin to so-called systems art and political and social systems. Starting with political and social systems, I have two relevant anecdotes. One, after screening a short video I'd made with post-9/11 commentary, an older man asked me what political system I thought would work. My answer, no political system. Two, I was talking with a Russian expatriate in Iowa City, and she said something to me like, "Don't you want more power?" To which I replied, "No, I want other people to have less power over me." These ideas are crucial to understanding my own systems imaginings. Here's a relevant quote from H.G. Wells' novel, The New Machiavelli from 1911. "The present system, I admit, stands condemned. Every present system always has stood condemned in the minds of intelligent men. But where it seems to me you get thin is just where everybody has been thin, and that's where you come to the remedy." Here's a relevant excerpt from a song entitled In Your Eyes on a CD by Alan Barish and Infinite Eye, featuring a speech by the Revolutionary Communist Party's chairman, Bob Avakian.
For millions of youth in the inner cities, even taking into account the chances that you'll get killed at a young age or go to jail for a long time, crime is a rational choice. Now think about what he's saying, this conservative author and analyst. He's saying for these youth, crime makes sense. It's the best option they have. And all the time, of course, these same people are preaching to the youth about what terrible things they're doing by doing crime. But what kind of system have you got then? If you can say that for millions and millions of youth in the inner city, crime is a rational choice, the best choice they can make under your system. What fucking kind of system have you got then?
So starting with numbers, and starting anywhere, so you don't have to be stuck in any particular place. 4, 5,
8,
2,
1, 7, 9,
8, 2,
8, 5, 1, 9, 5, 7,
5,
1, 3, 5,
2,
8,
1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1,
1,
8.
5. This slide lecture is called a collector's item, 25 years of rubber stamping. But sometimes I call it, this death threat will be a collector's item. You'll notice that there are pictures of haircuts. On the left, the lower left, there's a relatively visible upside-down question mark shape in the back of my head. That picture was taken in Paris in 1984. To the right, there's a more or less not visible at all negative of a right side up question mark. That's from the third Church of the Subgenius Convention in Baltimore in 1983. At one time I had a haircut in which my head was shaved with the letters in the back EG, which of course is the Latin abbreviation for example. And that made it so that I could be an EG head, a for example head, or an egg head, which I am pretty much. I often begin and end texts with for example at the beginning and a question mark at the end, which is to say that the text is not definitive. And sometimes have other people come along and plug into the whole setup. So, for example, one of the videos that you see here is from a shopping mall in Dundee, which is in northern Scotland, or northeastern Scotland, where I had a guitarist named Vex, who was a part of a crew called Flux, plugged into the system, and he was playing live along with the live mixing, and then with 2 other people doing chalk drawings on the sidewalk.
What's that?
I have to pack up.
Right.
Turn messages have made a complaint.
I see.